Sometimes we come to church just looking for a little bit of normal. To get away from the drama of our lives, to get away from the drama of the world, the craziness of whatever is happening around us. I understand that, but I'm sorry I'm going to have to disappoint you today. We are continuing on with the family saga through the book of Genesis. We've been talking about Jacob and his family, and today is going to be a day of drama. Holy moly. Now, understand, I'm not bringing this up. God is bringing this up. God picked this family. He's working with them. I'm just going through the story here. And so we're looking at particularly blended families. I'll stay there. Blended families. Blended families are groups of people that are put together, not necessarily connected by bloodline, in relationships as siblings and marriage and all the different types of combinations. I myself come from a blended family. My dad had a family before he met my mom. My mom had a family before she met my dad. They came together, and I am the pinnacle of the creation of our clan. It's all about me. No, what it means is I was the youngest, and I got picked on the most, but then I grew up. Now, that was weird enough, but I mentioned last week that I had about 1 billion uncles and aunts because my mom and dad came from huge families. But you have to understand, my dad, I had a very old dad. If he was alive today, he would be 101 years old. That's how old my dad was. So that means his family, I never really grew up with it. They were much older than me. So it got really weird when I'd go to family reunions, and I showed up, and I met my niece. I was 8, and she was 26 with 2 kids. You could just call me Uncle Noel. It didn't work. Even at 8, I was totally weirded out with it. I'm like, this just isn't right. Blended families bring a lot of different situations together, and there isn't like one type of blended family. There are so many varieties and different situations. It's not even fair for me to say, well, because I had this, I understand all this. There are just a multitude of situations. Because blended families come about in lots of different ways. Ways that you choose, some ways that you don't choose. For Jacob, he became a blended family really not by choice. Remember back in the story, so he goes to his uncle Laban, he finds Rachel, he goes, oh, that's my sweetie. I'm going to work for 7 years to earn my sweetie, pay the dowry. He works the 7 years. Uncle Laban tricks him. Puts a Leah in her place the next morning. Oh boy, I'm married to her. It's a done deal. He didn't choose that. He had worked with integrity to earn Rachel's hands, and he had been tricked. Sometimes that's what happens, and we get into situations where, okay, we got different combinations of folks. But then he goes ahead with Uncle Laban and says, yeah, but I still like Rachel. And he goes, great, you can have both of them. 1 week after the first wedding, he has a second wedding. How about that household, right? It's kind of crazy. Sometimes the decisions we make get us to this point. And there's just this kind of mixture of issues and dynamics that are going on, and we're going to see that in this story, this part of the story of Jacob's life. So he has 2 wives. The difficulty is that he really loves one and doesn't love the other. He never intended to marry Leah. She was just the sister. And so what breaks out between them is a baby war. Because in those days, one of the ways that women got value was to produce kids. And so Leah looked at her situation and go, he doesn't care about me. He married my sister 1 week after he married me. Good night. But I can maybe win his heart. I can win his affection if I start producing kids. And man, she is a baby factory. She just starts churning those kids out. Rachel, by the way, though, she can't have any kids. And she's going, well, I have my husband's heart, but I don't really have standing in the family. Here my sister is having all these kids. So Leah, or Rachel, comes up with a great plan. She says, here, Jacob, have my handmaiden. Let her have kids in my behalf. Bilhah. And Jacob goes, yes, dear. Steps up to the plate. She has a couple kids. Leah's going, oh man, she's starting to catch up. I can't have kids that fast, so here, Jacob, have my handmaiden, Zilpah. Yes, dear. So he's got 3 wives now, and finally, or 4 wives, and finally Rachel in the end starts to have some kids. So I know, are you confused? We need like a scorecard. Here we go. I'm telling you, Modern Family has nothing on this thing, right? And so that you understand the connection. So Leah was the first wife. She's connected to Zilpah. Rachel's the second wife. She gave Bilhah. So you kind of see the order, 1, 2, 3, 4. Bilhah started getting in the race. And then so Leah brought in Zilpah. And then she had a couple more kids. And Rachel brings it home there with 12. 12 sons and 1 daughter. My Katie complains about having 3 brothers. She's reading the story of Dinah today. Don't feel so bad. How about 12 brothers? Crazy. Isn't it just crazy? Now, we may not relate to the baby war thing. That seems like way out of bounds for us. We wouldn't have that type of a situation now. But what we do get in blended families is that there's this issue of competition, right? This competition for time, attention, affection. I mean, these ladies were basically doing a bidding war for Jacob. Poor guy, right? There's this sense of, if I am to have my place, if I'm going to find my place, I've got to beat somebody else out. And when you bring in a blending family and you have people coming from different backgrounds, there is this change. Because a new relationships always bring new dynamics. Things were settled before, if you were connected with, if you were just with your mom or just with your dad, you sort of went, I know how things work, I know my connection, and now maybe another kid's in the situation, maybe another parent, another adult's in the situation, you're just going, well, I used to have my dad by myself, now I got to share him maybe with another kid, maybe with a wife now, and that just changes the dynamics. It's not that anybody's doing anything wrong as much as this is just the natural reality of going, how do we figure all this out? It's an issue. It's a major issue for people that experience this. Jacob continues on, and the story goes in kind of an odd way here. It kind of moves into the drama of this. I mean, you'd go, that's enough drama. But as life continues on, he finally goes, wow, I've got 4 wives, I've got 12 mouths to feed. I need to get out of here. And he leaves his uncle Laban. He heads out. He starts to meet his brother Esau. Remember Esau? He swindled him. His brother swore that he was going to kill him. So this isn't like they've been texting and it's all okay. They've never seen each other since that time that he ran away. He's going, man, my brother's going to take me for all I'm worth. A lot of drama with that, getting ready for it. But God's been at work. It actually turns into a really beautiful scene in chapter 33 where they reconcile together. But a lot of drama kind of leading up to that. You have this really crazy story about his daughter Dinah. They move on from Esau. They stop at this place in Shechem. And there's a kid there that's kind of sweet on Dinah. And, one thing leads to another. There's some type of sexual assault or some sort kind of going on. Jacob is trying to go, hey, let's just kind of make this peaceful. He's willing to marry her, so let's work out some type of agreement. Well, her brothers are going, forget this. How dare they treat our daughter that way? Maybe this plays into that whole different moms, because it's the older brothers that are the brothers of Dinah, and they say, well, our father's trying to make peace, but we've got another plan. Jacob proposes that, says, fine, you can marry my daughter, but, we follow God, so you have to be circumcised. All of your men have to be circumcised. Whew. Man, that king really loves his son here. And they say, yeah, I think we'll do that. And so they have the procedure, all the men all together, and so they're sick for a few days. This is the moment for the brothers. They rise up apart from their dad, and they go in and they slaughter the whole town. They don't just come back and get revenge. They don't just get the guy that did something wrong. They kill every male in the whole city. And they take the women, they take the children, they take their goods, they take their animals. They basically plunder the whole place. And Jacob is going, what have you done to me? What have you done? People around here are going to find out what we did, and they're going to hunt us down. Why did you do this? It's a strange story. There's a lot of different dynamics, and you almost don't know why we're even told this. I mean, they spend a whole chapter on it because it doesn't quite fit into the arc of what else God is doing. It's just kind of this crazy, chaotic story. Jacob has to run away from there, and he goes on, and he ends up having to lose Rachel. Rachel has the last son. And she dies in childbirth, so he loses the wife that he actually loves. Shortly after that, his father Isaac passes away. And in between those two stories, he finds out a story about his oldest, Reuben. His oldest son, Reuben, is trying to steal one of his 4 wives. He's getting in good with Bilhah, the handmaiden of Rachel. So not one of the original wives, one of the handmaidens, but you can even see the kind of the competition going on there, right? Because she's going, well, Reuben's going to be in charge as soon as Jacob's done. He's going to inherit everything his father. If I'm good with him, I go from 4th wife to 1st wife, right? A lot of different, most kind of go, why are we getting all these details? This is the type of stuff that we want to hide. You don't talk about this at church, and here we've got it in the Bible, for everyone to read. Not quite sure, but we certainly get a picture of just absolute chaos in his life. Things are not going the way that Jacob would really like them to. He has plenty of issues happening. The story then turns back to kind of home and family, and it starts a new chapter with his son Joseph. Joseph is the first son of Rachel, so he is born in Jacob's late ages, so, he's kind of sweet on Jacob, or sweet on Joseph. It's certainly, he's connected to the wife that he loves. But it starts out with saying Joseph was 17. He's only got one younger brother, so all the other brothers are older. They've had responsibilities. And there's a little bit of a not difficult, but it's a judgment call of kind of how we want to understand Joseph at the very beginning. Some people kind of read it as he was a bit of a brat because it says he would basically tattle on his older brothers. Now, I'm sure no boys ever got themselves in any trouble or anything like that. Yeah, right. There's probably plenty to tattle, but nonetheless, he was this tattler. He'd come back, Dad, do you know what they're doing now? Do you know what they're doing now? And so he's got kind of this bratty kid, not very well liked. Or you could see it as, no, he was just a good kid. He didn't do things wrong. He had that good kid syndrome. That's the way it was for me. I was the good kid. Really, I really was. Mostly, though, because my brother and sister, I got to watch them grow up as teenagers and went, wow, I'm not going to do that stuff. That ended badly. My brother, he was a big guy. When he was in high school, he was weightlifting. He was just a bad dude. You didn't mess with my brother. He's going out the door. My mom's washing the dishes. He goes, I'm going out with my friends. I'll see you later. And she goes, where are you going and when you'll be back? I don't need to tell you anything, and said some nice words. My mom took her hands out of the wash, went over, bam! Knocked my brother against the wall. He slumps down. I mean, this is my big bad brother. You don't fight him. He slumps down, and don't you ever call me. I got my jaw down going, never call mom. So, being the good king could often means you get to see the mistakes of other folks and go, don't do that. All right? So maybe he's a good kid, maybe he's a bit of a brat. But what happens, what we are sure about, is that Joseph is put in an awkward position because it says very blatantly that Jacob favored Joseph above his brothers. He loved him because he was connected to Rachel, because he was that son of his old age, and there's just that kind of that sweetness. The first kid, he gets the intensity of parenting. Everything's got to be wrong. Don't do anything. The fourth kid, you're like, whatever. He's the 11th kid, man. Just strap him to the roof. He's fine. Right? And they give an example of it. He gives him this beautiful multicolored coat that is a sign of distinction, a sign of love. And what it produces in the family is happiness and joy and contentment, because everybody can see that Joseph is the one that's most important over everybody else. And it just fills everybody with warm feelings of hatred, right? They see this. They see that he's tattling on them, telling them all the bad stuff that they do. They see how their father does this, and there's just this simmering hatred underneath the surface. This is one of the other issues that blending families often have to deal with is that issue of favoritism. Sometimes it is blatant, like it is here in this situation with Jacob and Joseph, but sometimes it's also just latent. Nobody's trying to do wrong as much as you just kind of tend to favor your own child, or you favor a child that kind of you get along with, and it just happens accidentally. But you put it in this situation of a blending family where all the risk, all the issues kind of are magnified, and it's a very powerful element. The book that the small group that is using, a Smart Step Family, talks about this a little bit and says that you need to recognize this, that there are bonds in a blending family that are very real, and you don't want to just kind of, let's pretend that they're not there. You need to own them. Think about the Brady Bunch, right? The quintessential blended family from the 70s, 60s, and 70s. She brings her three, he brings his. Can you think of one episode where they had any issues with favoritism of going, well, these are my daughters and those are your sons? There is not a single episode. They are just this perfect family that no one has to worry about who's going to the prom and if you broke my nose, right? They kind of whitewash that whole situation, and it's just not true. This is part of that natural bonds, and we have to take a look at that and own it. Now, it doesn't mean that we go all the way to Jacob where we go, all right, let's put somebody above someone else. But this is one of the issues that just comes up that is part of being in the situation of a blended family. The favoritism and the hatred finally boil over on one bad day. Jacob sends his sons out with the flocks, and after a while he goes, okay, Joseph, why don't you go out and check on your brothers? So you see what's going on here? This isn't just about Joseph. This isn't just about the brothers. You have a dad that's just really out to lunch on this, of going, that he's not paying attention to the animosity that has been there. He continues to put Joseph over top of them, and he puts Joseph in another bad situation of going, you go tattle on them for me. Joseph hunts them down. They certainly have not listened to what Dad said, and so he's going to find out some more. He tracks them down, and they see him from afar. And the hatred boils over, and they say, this is our moment. We cannot stand this kid. And now we're away from Dad. Nobody can see us. It is our chance to get rid of him. We've got to get rid of him. They take him with violence, and they throw him into a pit. They're going to stone him. He's wailing. It's going very badly. Two of the older ones finally go, wait a minute, we've got to get our heads here. We can't do this. This is an awful, awful plan. No matter how much we hate him, we can't do this thing. By fortune, some traders happen past them, and they say, let's sell him off into slavery. We'll make some coin, we keep our hands clean, and we get rid of Joseph. This isn't to teach him a lesson. When they sell him off, they're never seeing Joseph again. This is basically a death sentence, just not by their own hands. They go, okay, yeah, this is great. This gets us off the hook. And they sell off Joseph. And they said, but we need a story to tell Dad. So they take one of the lambs, they kill it, they take his coat, they smear it in blood, and they come back with somber faces, Oh, Dad, we were coming back. We found this along the way. I think it's Joseph's coat. He must have been attacked. He's gone. Deception, swindling, forcing accusing them of, what's the word? Sorry, just lost the word. Threatening him with death. There we go. We haven't seen these type of things for what? Just a little bit of time. They bring it before Jacob, and he is grasped by it. And grief, and overwhelming grief comes on him. Not just the loss of a son, but this is the loss of Joseph, his favorite. This is the loss of his connection to Rachel. It says his whole family would gather around him, trying to console him, and he was unconsolable. My life will never be good again. It's over. And a pale of depression came over that household. Not a great story, guys, but a very real one, isn't it? This is a real family. This isn't a fable. These aren't made-up people. It's not a TV show. There's these people from 3,000 years ago that went through this, through the chaos of life, through the challenges of what family is. We may think that we're very modern and different, but technology can change, government can change, people stay the same. But I want to share two great truths with you. The first is that blending families are not second class. We could look at all this chaos and go, well, that's because, you know what, they don't have God's structure of the family, the nuclear family. You got one dad, one mom, couple kids, and it all stays the same. And if you get that right, boy, everything's going to be great. And they have chaos in their life because they look different. And it's just not true. Every issue that we have talked about today, we've already talked about. Favoritism, Isaac loved Esau, but Rachel or Rebekah loved Jacob. Favoritism there. Trying to kill your brother, Esau hunted down Jacob. Competition, Abraham and Sarah. They had it all figured out, and they looked just the same as a mess. See, there is no family that's perfect. It's not a structure that makes us right. There is something to be said for stability, but no family is perfect. It's not what comes from the outside. It's not the situation. The heart of the people are what's broken. Now, this is not to say that, no one's perfect, so anything goes, right? We don't have to worry about our choices. No, right choices really matter. And we've been seeing that through this. As people would live out the worst inclinations of themselves in these family stories, there have been horrible consequences. And yet there is God taking this family and bringing them along. You would think that God would go out and find that perfect Christian church family that looked just right. Let's deal with them. Instead, he picks this family. These 12 brothers are going to be the 12 tribes of Israel. Holy mackerel, did he swing and miss on that one? We're going to change the world, folks. And we go through that story. God says, yep, I'm going to work with that family. And so that's the second great truth, is that God is at work here. God is not going, because of this situation, because someone made these choices, I can't do anything. God is there patiently working with Abraham, with Isaac, with Jacob, with all the wives. He's going to work with the kids and say, will you follow me? Take a look. Let's go back into that story and look at a couple snapshots. So we jumped. When Jacob was on the run, when he was running away from his family, God met him at Bethel. That's when he has the dream. And God says, hey, Jacob, I got you. Don't worry about it. Jacob is not a righteous man. He just swindled his family. He's running away. And God meets him. Jacob is on the run from Laban, going to meet Esau, thinking that he's going to get killed for what he's done. And on the night before he meets Esau, God meets with him. He wrestles with God. Where's my life going? What does this mean? And God reminds him, I will bless you. I've got you. In the middle of all the chaos that we've just gone through, on one of the trips, God meets him again at Bethel. And he says, Jacob, I've got you. And he reveals himself as El Shaddai. I'm not just God, I am Almighty God. There is nothing in your life that is beyond what I can handle. I've got you, Jacob. It's a powerful moment for Jacob because you know what the next story is? After he has this fantastic religious experience, Rachel dies in childbirth. Rachel dies giving birth to Benjamin. But before they name him Benjamin, she feels her life slipping away, and they go, what are you going to name him? And she says, Ben-Oni, son of my suffering. My life is over. This is horrible. My life is in chaos. Nothing good is going to happen. But Jacob responds saying, no. He will be known as Benjamin, son of my rejoicing, even as he loses the wife that he loves. He doesn't get that from Tony Robinson. This isn't put on a happy face. This is from meeting with God and going, he is my El Shaddai. God is the one that I'm going to trust. And so what he does is he takes the gods that Rachel stole from her dad, the other things that people, and he says, let's get rid of them. And they bury him under a tree. And they say, we're going to trust God alone with our family. I don't know where your family is at. Maybe it's in the midst of this chaos. Maybe things are going along okay. But I want you to know he's big enough to handle wherever you're at. And he's still at work. Life doesn't go in a straight line. No matter how well you try to plan it, no matter how you try to control it, it's going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to go sideways, because you're not the only actor, and other people can make bad decisions too, let alone your bad decisions. But God's not done yet. He didn't pick the perfect family. He picked this family. A very modern family, if I do say so myself. Maybe we need to give God a little more room to work in our lives and say, he can handle this. I need to follow him. I need to bury the things that I put my trust in and say, I'm with you, God. Even as we end this story, right? We ended this story today with Jacob in inconsolable grief going, my life is over. Nothing good will ever happen to me again until I die. And what we're going to find out next week, God's still at work, isn't he? He's still at work. Let's pray. Father, it is a strange place to be at times in this mess called family. It's a mess because it's full of people, broken people, and we may try to make it work right and have our own plans, but it really has always been in your hands. It's always been an invitation to say we're going to trust you, to listen for the times that you meet us along the road in the midst of the chaos. Lord, give us the courage not to lose heart, not to be set aside by the things that come, but to live with the hope of knowing you are at work. Lord, work on our hearts. Help us to hear you. Righteousness does matter. We need to align ourselves with you starting each day today. No matter what's happened in the past, today is yours. Make us those type of people.